Good evening, everyone who's here with us this evening. A warm welcome on behalf of the chairperson and the trustees of the CSMVS, members of the Museum Society, my executive committee, our friends who are joining us, and our guests as well. I have a confession to make today, which hasn't happened to us during the lockdown times. Dadi has been held up somewhere and he is just unavailable on any form of communication. But hold on a minute, don't be disappointed. I have seen the entire presentation a little over an hour and a half back. And we have with us a wonderful young man, Fali, to moderate, Fali Singara, to moderate this session. But Fali, I must compliment you. You've done a tremendous amount of research. You've got an amazing amount of visual material, and I don't want to see that going waste. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. We've informed Dadi's brother, Fali has spoken to him, and we just hope that nothing untoward has happened to Dadi, because it is very unlike him not to be on the show with us this evening, on this evening's talk. So that is my prayer, that he is safe and he can join us anytime. The technical team have his ID and they can let him in at any time. Dadi is a puppeteer of great international renown. He is really India's foremost and innovative modern puppeteer, the first non-European president of the International Puppetry Organization, popularly called UNIMA, Union Internationale de la Marionette, from 2002 to 2021. And now he heads UNIMA as President Emeritus. He's really revived Indian puppetry and given it a lot of legitimacy as an art form in India. For his efforts, he's been awarded the Sangeet Natak Academy's Award for Puppetry, the highest recognition given to Indian performing artists, and the Padma Shri in 2011 for his contribution to the arts. In the course of the evening, you will hear his entire life story, his start as a young man, founder and director of India's first modern puppet theatre repertory, the Sutradhar Puppet Theatre at the Shri Ram Centre for Art and Culture in Delhi. Founded in 1986 by Dadi, the Ishara Puppet Theatre Trust, it's a trust, is India's preeminent contemporary creative puppet company. Ishara has worked with a large group of puppeteers, traditional artists, actors and dancers, stage performers, create events and conduct workshops. And Fali has all that information and with visuals, which he's going to share with us. One of Asia's most prestigious and wide-ranging puppet festivals since 2001, the Ishara International Puppet Theatre Festival is graced by thousands of visitors each year, and we have clips to show that puppeteers from Europe and far-flung places have also attended this festival. And of course, the great role that he's played in working with the underprivileged, spread awareness amongst those affected by HIV and substance abuse. So he's used this art of his of puppeteering to really reach out to the community in a variety of ways, forms, very innovative. He's combined large puppets with small puppets, multi-puppet manipulation, puppets performing with human beings, and how well their roles gel together. Don't want to say much about Dadi. His work speaks for himself, and I've just given a brief synopsis. But I would like to say something about Fali, who I've known for many, many years. Not as long as I've known Dadi, but Fali is much younger. Dadi's career and mine started 50 years ago, almost parallel. And Fali was in school with my elder daughter. Fali, don't mind if I give your age away. You must be around 40 or thereabouts right now. But look what this young man has accomplished in the 2 decades that he's been in the media as a radio jockey, producer and writer. And very often when I've tuned into the program, I hear Fali's voice. He's currently a radio jockey with All India Radio at the 107.1 FM in Mumbai, a very, very popular program. He's also had a parallel career in journalism and filmmaking. He's worked on sets in Hollywood and in Bollywood with Sanjay Leela Bhansali. His career highlights including directing documentaries on Mother Teresa and music maestro Zubin Mehta, amongst others. As a journalist, he has contributed to several publications like the Times of India, DNA, Midday, the Professional magazine, the Record Music magazine, and many more. He's done for radio, TV, and print. And as I said, a notable number of well-known interviews with Ratan Tata, Muhammad Yunus, Amitav Ghosh, Paulo Coelho, Anthony Bourdain, Anushka Shankar, and Madonna, amongst many. I don't know where you get the time, Fali, but he teaches at Xavier's Institute of Communications and at Xavier's College, Mumbai. Don't want to say too much about this evening. It will speak for itself. It's visual delight. And I'm so glad that Fali's taken a lot of effort in putting this evening together. And if Dadi joins us, good for us.
Both the speakers are in, ma'am.
Both the speakers are in. God has answered my prayers. But I'm not going to repeat everything I've said because we'll run short of time. But I do want to thank, as always, our technical team, headed by Jason Johns, whose voice you just heard, and Aishwarya, Mrinalini, and Yashraj. Guys, I just don't know what we would do without this young team who led us through, steered us through not only our actual events in the evening, but through our rehearsals as well. Thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, just sit back and enjoy this really, really delightful evening. It's not about childhood. It's about what you can do with the medium of puppetry in our adult lives as well. And at the end, I think Fali will ask him about career opportunities for young people who do not wish to pursue a very academic career. Is there scope for them? Yes, there is. So I'll end on this positive note and thank Dadi, thank Fali, and the entire team on behalf of myself and the executive at the Museum Society, my colleagues. So I hand you both over to the technical team. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening.
I see we have a wonderful audience. I hope you all can hear me. Hi, I'm Fali. And of course, it's such a privilege and honor to be hosting this and moderating this. Really an honor. And of course, what can I say about Mr. Dadi Pudumjee? I think everybody knows his work and it's absolutely timeless. I mean, the things he has come up with, the things he has brought out to society, they're things that are even more, relevant today. So, Dadi, I hope you're all set for an evening of fun with your audience over here. Yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Please go ahead and say a few words.
I am sorry I'm late. I was in the midst of something else. Normally I prefer to do interactive sessions, or just yesterday morning we had a huge online session for about 100-200 government school teachers from all over India, from Center of Cultural Resources and Training. And teaching online is not necessarily the easiest, but it was interesting because you were connecting to people from different states. But I think, Fali, you are the host, mentor. It's better you ask questions and then I can ramble off. Yeah.
Okay, so all I want to say is that first things first, what has driven that amazing creativity. I mean, people who are tuned in and don't know much about your work, like some new people who are discovering puppetry. I mean, stage performances, TV shows, hit Bollywood movies. You've worked on them all. You know, you've been such an imaginative puppeteer and performer throughout the past 50 years, and you still surprise your audience on stage and on screen. So what fuels that amazing creativity? I mean, come on, tell us the secret.
Well, I don't want to make it sound so great. It's more to mystify, not to mystify the whole thing. But any art form that you take up today, whether it's puppetry or art, painting, music, dance, whatever, it's a medium, as we call it, and you have to make your own way. Fali, you have made your own way, I think, with your radio jockey work or somebody else. So it's never easy. Yes. In this case, I did have some support because there was some, the family, though they were very worried about puppetry, did have some sort of backup, you know, but it all starts in Pune, my hometown. And that is where I first got my string puppets. They were called Pelham string puppets. Pelham is a puppet company in the UK, now closed down, gone to USA. And these were toys, and that's how it started. I think my brother is also on the net here, and he was given one, and I think it was a horse, and he didn't want it, and I got it, so I had two. That's how it started through school, college in Pune. Mostly.
So let's show them your home and everything of that. So let's have the first slide. So, okay, this, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, this is an amazing quote. This has been his life's quote. The essence of the creator's idea as a puppeteer is tradition, imagination, talent, and hard work. These are the solid pillars of puppetry. I think everyone can see that on screen. And I think those are words to live by. And these can be transplanted to any form of work or any creative form of art.
I have to talk about this photograph. In fact, it was taken, it's not an Indian Express photograph. It was taken by a well-known photographer who does portrait photography, an Eman, a close friend, and he had taken this photograph some years ago. And today I was called by somebody saying that, look, you better change this photograph. It's been going on for 10 years, the same. But I like this photograph because of the puppet. This puppet was a Parsi Bawa made, I think it was 1976 in the school in Stockholm, the Marionette Theatre Institute, Stockholm school, when I made it, and it's still there. The puppet hasn't gone bald. I have since then. And yeah, and it's, as I said, that picture, but then it's go the next slide. Are you going to call for the slides? Or
yeah. So Jason, can you play the next slide, please? Yeah. So this is, of course, your family, where we've
there are two families.
Yes.
One is my mother, who's sitting in the lap there, and she's in Bombay, and my father was from Pune, and that's the home I grew up in Pune or Pune, and that's where it all starts. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Yeah, this is your family album, and
this is what they all looked like. Everybody's grown up. The picture on the right is interesting. I think it was 1976 with Darpana Academy and Mayor Contractor, or 72, we were going to the first large World Puppet Festival, and Air India had sponsored some tickets. And so we had to make this little puppet Maharaja, which was walking around in the Bombay airport, Santa Cruz airport at that point of time. Yeah. Next.
Amazing. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, these are your mentors and teachers. So I would like to ask you, you know, like growing up, who are your heroes? Who are the people who shared your inspirations and visuals? You know, were there any notable puppeteers and characters that inspired you as a child?
When I was interested in puppetry as a hobby in Pune, it was just mostly through learning from books, and Manny's bookstall had some puppet books. But it was much later that when I went to Ahmedabad, that is where more of it got formalized. And the people who may be pushed in this, I mean, in Ahmedabad, Mayor Contractor, she's passed away. She ran the puppet section at the Darpana Academy of Performing Arts today. Malika Sarabhai runs the academy. Michael Meshke is on the top photograph, the Swedish Puppet Theatre, and I was in his school. And the Japanese gentleman who now is, I don't know, 80 plus maybe, he's a national living treasure, and he was there workshopping with us. So these were some of the people that came from Ahmedabad, I would say. But the first puppet puppet interactions were through the shows that would come. There was Albrecht Roser, a German puppeteer who traveled 2 or 3 times to Pune through the Goethe Institute. There was an American puppeteer called Daniel Lords who lived in our place when he performed in Pune. So 1 or 2 things like that, but otherwise, yeah, that's it.
Okay,
Next.
I wanted to ask you also, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, Bollywood did a lot of puppetry in the movies. For example, Sound of Music, one of the most beautiful sequences was, with the puppets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Seeing that on the big screen, did that also inspire your vision? Seeing
Sure,
Sesame Street and all these things?
Yeah, much later in the 70s, I met the puppeteer who had made the puppets, Bill Baird. He's an American puppeteer, though it was the Von Trapp family that has been portrayed in that. But the puppets were an American company, and they put in maybe puppets because of the Austrian, the Vienna Marionette Theatre, but whatever. Yeah, there is some of it. So you saw some of it on film or things like that, but that, yes, whatever there was there. Yeah. A lot of encouragement came through the school, maybe Bishop School in Pune, where used to have something called Scratch Concert. Our principal, Mr. Lunn, every 2 months encouraged you to get onto stage, and there would be bands, there would be something. So this little string puppet would come on, and somebody would play Elvis Presley's Wooden Heart or something, and the puppet would dance. Then Pune Women's Council used to have these fundraising programs, so puppet booth would be put up, so things like that with some playback music. But really, the more puppetry and Indian puppetry and traditional forms came through Mayor Contractor and people in Ahmedabad when I was at the NID. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely amazing. Okay, let's go to the next slide so we can talk about
many slides. Yeah.
Yes, here we go. So you were talking about NID. Let's start off with that. That gave you a backing for your career that's lasted now over 50 years. It's amazing. Tell us about that. Yeah.
NID came as a surprise. 1917, nobody knew. 1970 was the first undergraduate program. I joined in 71 after my graduation in Pune, Guardia College. And the interesting thing was that an architect in Pune, Soli Motiwala, he came back I had applied to JJ College of Art, I remember, and the entrance thing or whatever, the test thing didn't come much later till the other colleges open. And so one went like everybody else into economics, history, science, political science. When he visited Ahmedabad, he's also passed away, he said, there's this fantastic institute there which is just open now, and we didn't know about NID. Now, the first thing my parents called up for their friends to the art world was Homi and Nelly Setna. And they knew about NID because Nelly Setna had invited Helena Perrin-Tupper and these people to set up the textile department. They said, yes, of course, go. So one thing led to another, and I went to Ahmedabad. And if I had not gone, I think it would have been a different journey. One thing led to another. There were 4 years in NID, and in my last year was ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. Space Application Center is in Ahmedabad, and you had the satellite instructional TV experiment for rural areas, and we beamed from Ahmedabad. And Hu Bhai and Ha Bhai, both the main actors, the famous Pransuk Nayak and Kailash Bhai, and the donkey was the alter ego. Mukhi was the man who wants to change, but the donkey, they argue, and he can't because of social problems in villages. And every time they got a story from the village, it was in Nadia Tej area, and we found a story anywhere in the world to put through puppets. So that was maybe one of the first made to see. It was very popular. The puppet became a hero. He got invitations. He got anaj, bags of grain to the studio because he became the voice of those people. Yeah. There's
Amazing.
A picture, there's a Darpana Academy performance with some of the students. Yeah. In fact, the girl from your right, second, Dinaz Kalvachwala, she's just won the national award for the documentary on nomads in Gujarat. She just made a film. These were all classmates, and this is the Darpana Academy. Yeah.
Amazing. Can we go to the next slide now, please? Yeah, these are earlier.
Yeah, you can. These are just different pictures from in Ahmedabad, in Delhi, at the Shri Ram Centre, 1980. Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to ask you now, you've made so many amazing puppets. What was the first puppet you made by yourself? Do you still have that puppet?
I
After
do
50
have it,
years?
but I don't think it's in a good condition and it's deteriorated. It was in Pune. These were small puppets, as I said, for those little events, social events and, fundraising things in school. And yeah, there were small characters, or the string puppets which I had got as presents. Those were modified and made into something else later, characters. So these things came much later.
Absolutely amazing. Okay, can we go to the next slide? Okay, so please tell us about this. I mean, this is where your journey began with your creativity. Yeah.
1976, I went to Stockholm to Marionette Theatre Institutes. They were an experiment for 3 years in puppet training. There were 12 students and we were 2 foreigners, one me and one from Peru. And it was a year I was there, a guest student, came back to Mumbai. And the first job I remember was at G.D. Somani's school. It was Pearl Pudumjee who introduced me, and Neelam Mansingh. It was her first job. We were at the school and I did puppetry, she did theatre. And SNDT Polytechnic had just opened in Juhu, or were getting built. And I was doing some classes there in drawing. Again, going to Stockholm and to East Germany first to do a production in GDR, to direct a production at the Berlin Puppet Theatre. Padma Shri from the Shri Ram Centre calls, and that very evening when I'm leaving, she says, we would like to set up a puppet repertory company. I said, I've signed this contract. After Berlin, I'll be in Stockholm again to teach the children and youth theatre. So they waited for a year. In 1980, I returned. To a very strange time, because that's the year my father passes away. I come to Pune, and then in 2 months, I am back in Delhi to start a new job. It couldn't be better. It was a puppet repertory company. And these were the people we worked with. They're traditional puppeteers, young puppeteers. Vinod Dua was one of our first script writers and puppeteer as well. So yeah, that's how it starts. That's how Delhi came, 1980. Happened.
Absolutely amazing. Can you tell us about the puppeteer with the big mooch like that?
The puppet with this big mootiki mooch. This was the first performance we had done. It was called A Tiger for Breakfast. It was Target magazine, was a children's magazine run by Rosalind Wilson. And that had a story called Tiger, and we adapted that story. It was the first performance. We used to perform every weekend during the season, Saturday evening, Sunday morning, in the basement theatre at the Shri Ram Centre, and it was for adults. And that's how one thing grew to another. We had, I think in those 5 or 6 years, 13 or 14 new productions, each of them very different.
Absolutely amazing. Can we go to the next slide? There are some more interesting early years. This is your first performance. Please tell us about this.
These are all the different performances. Dhola Mauru was a Rajasthani Gatha, which was done by the Rajasthani puppeteer Puran and his brother Jagdish. They carve the puppet on stage, and as they're carving, they sing the song. They sing the story, and while it's being done, it's enacted with large masks, with puppeteers. This is what came from, I think, Stockholm, the synergy between actors, puppets, masks, not just puppets, not puppets as an end in themselves, but a means to tell a story. Yeah. So there were different things. This is what maybe broke tradition. Dhola Mauru was the first, I think 1984, 85, it went to the World Puppet Festival, UNIMA Congress in Dresden, that time GDR. And for the first time, a modern puppet theatre went. And we got a huge standing ovation there, because you normally, which is also very good, this ICCR always relied on traditional puppet groups or traditional forms. So that year, I remember we went and they said, oh, we didn't know that these things also happened in India. Yeah.
Amazing. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, tell us about this. This is one.
This is the same trip. After the Dresden thing, we traveled to Bulgaria and to Moscow. Sergei Obraztsov is one of the popes of puppet theatre. He's passed away. He set up the State Puppet Theatre in Moscow. And it was a great privilege to meet him there. And we performed Dhola Mauru in his things. There's Panna Bharatram as well in the picture. And the repertory, some have passed on, some are still around. And yeah, it was special. So whenever a puppeteers say, oh my God, where is this photograph from? I said, we were there and we performed there. And after maybe 30 years, I think year before last, in September, we performed again our new play, When Land Becomes Water, on the same theater, the same place, Moscow.
Amazing, full circle. You've come full circle with this.
Yeah.
Okay, can we go to the next clip, please? Okay, before we play that clip, I'd like to say that, of course, in 1986, you founded the Ishara Puppet Theatre Trust, which today is now the country's leading established platform for puppetry. So how did Ishara come about? I mean, that name is so unique. Why the name Ishara? Could you tell us about that?
1986, when I left, finished with the Shri Ram Centre, I stayed on in Delhi and formed my own puppet company. And a very well-known writer, Hindi writer, Gitanjali Shri, we were looking for a name. We were doing a workshop in Kasauli, and she coined this, she got this name Ishara as a gesture or as a way, and that's how it started. And then it got registered as a trust, and yeah, and then 2001, I think, was our first International Puppet Festival. We've had 18, and it's the only maybe annual festival that has run for so long. More than 100 countries have performed in it. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been absolutely fantastic performances. I mean, whenever I've had a chance, I've seen a number of them. And I must say that you've come a long way, because when we had a conversation earlier, you know, you said that the early days of Ishara were in a mobile van. You
Yes.
didn't even have a stage. Could you tell us about that?
The mobile van, is this video loading or what is happening? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll go into the video after that.
The mobile van was 86. There was an Earth Run, UNICEF Earth Run, Children Need Peace. And they had commissioned us to do a tempo traveler, which became a puppet theater. And we had a small story about education, children, working children, this, that. And it went around to all the settlement areas around Delhi, and we were performing. The group went in the van. We had battery operated music, the speakers. We set up a stage in the tempo, a rod puppet stage, and we performed. So the different things that happened. Yeah.
Very interesting. So now what we're going to show everyone is a small clip of all the years gone by of Ishara, you know, a couple of the brochures and some of the performances and performers from across the world. I think it'll be very interesting. I must share with the listeners and the viewers over there who are watching us that really unique talent has come from across the world every time. I mean, from everything from shadow puppetry to glove puppetry to traditional puppetry to some of the best of Indian puppetry, which would not have been discovered. Okay, so let's see the video, and here we go.
It's interesting, 18 years. Yeah. This was one of the promos for the 18th festival, 2020. We didn't have one, this year. Now, hopefully next year. What is important that this festival has run for 18 years with, I would say, as of now, nil sponsorship, nil support. people help, people come in, and we run it on ticket sales, and schools buy shows. The Chandigarh administration shows go. Earlier, when Vijaya Mehta was at SCPA, the festival also went to Mumbai. 3 or 4 shows would come to Bombay as well. But yeah, each year we go around, and this is how it is. And some people ask us, why are we doing it? Because it's, why? And then there's a whole lot of people who say, no, we should have it. And they look forward to the festival. Already people are asking about next year, different countries. They say, if we can travel, we would like to come. Many groups come on their own. They don't have support. They want to come to India and perform as well. The German Institute, the Italian Center, and the Spanish Center. These have been 3 of the major supporters who have sometimes supported groups to travel to the festival. Yeah. And it's for adults as well as children. These
Absolutely
are
amazing.
Yeah, these are different shows. A very popular, very famous show is Carries On 2000, and I think it was 13. Dr. Kapilavatsa and at IGNC would commission a puppet group, traditional, and then we were the first modern one to do a story or to produce on Mahatma Gandhi. And we did Images of Truth, which still runs. It goes all over Greece, Singapore, if all places, Iran as well. And this was in Ahmedabad at the ashram when we were sitting with that period, that group at that point of time. Images of Truth or Satya Ki Pratiroop. Yeah. It's been all over the place with world music without text.
It's absolutely amazing. We'll show a clip of that in a little bit. But I wanted to ask you now, how do you build a puppet team for a show performance? What kind of people are you looking for, when you're making a team like that?
See, it has grown. In early days, people, when we were at Shri Ram Centre, Puran Bhatt, all of these, then Anurupa Roy, who's got her own theatre. And then I think it was 2006 when the UNESCO HIV and Substance Abuse program came to us to do work, to do productions. We worked with Salam Balak Trust, they said, and the first group of SBT young people were coming out of Salam Balak Trust, 18-year-old. And 8 of them joined Ishara. They got trained with this whole project in puppetry. Some of them now are having their own theaters. They do their own work. And so it's we have a small group of 3 or 4 people who are permanent. We work every day. And then a larger group of people we worked for through many years. And they come as freelance artists depending on the production. Yeah.
Amazing. And of course, people who are new to puppetry, who don't know much about puppetry, they normally see puppets and they think, okay, they're string puppets. But the fact is, they're shadow puppets, they're tabletop puppets, they're hand puppets, they're glove puppets, they're body puppets, marionettes, of course. What is your favorite type of puppet to work with? I mean, when I look at the puppet encyclopedia, there are over 300 entries for different puppets. So what would you say?
Types, different techniques, as you've said, glove, rod, shadow. But then it depends. If you're a traditional puppeteer or a generational puppeteer, you're bound by the look or that style, And we have some 7 or 8 states in India which have very good, all these techniques alive. The modern puppeteers are more urban based, and their stories or their visual material is they're not bound down by one technique. I prefer to use puppets, objects, shadow, projection. In the last, when land becomes water, there was digital animation as well. So again, it comes back to Meshke's thing of using puppetry as a means to tell a story, not as an ends in itself. So what do I have at hand? A lot of movement comes in, and that came in, I think, early 89, 90 collaborations with Astad Debu, who we did a piece called Friends, and then Thanatomorphia, Many Faces of Death. And from then came in a lot of movement or dance in our group as well, bit of that. So it keeps changing. Yeah.
Amazing. So I think the next slide will show them how you put everything together.
This was some clips of the Images of Truth, Satya Ki Pratiroop performance, where Gandhi is thrown out of the train. The train were the trunks of the passengers. And there's a faceless figure, and the puppet himself puts his masks on and becomes what we know as Mahatma Gandhi. Yeah.
can you tell us about what we just saw? Because I saw there was so much going on with different kinds of puppets. You know, there were small puppets, large puppets, hand puppets.
The whole thing came about, as I said at that point, every year she would commission a group, and it was traditional groups and mostly shadow. So they would do a very picture book thing, you know, like a story. This happened, that happened. When it came to us, the idea was to challenge to make the medium and the message meet, and to also make it interesting to go. Everybody's, or many people have and haven't, and they sometimes it's all black and white. This is right, this is wrong, Mahatma Gandhi. And the idea was, challenge was not to use words, to use world music. And except at one point when the puppet writes little quotations of Gandhi and the puppeteers give them to into the audience. But the whole thing was that the puppet of Gandhi is very small, and everything is larger than life, which is, you know, imposing on him or he's confronting. And in the end, it ends with partition, where they cut the stage with a red cloth in two pieces and he's assassinated. And that's the only place where a piece of Bhajan Vaishnav Janatu was used, which was a Gandhi ring by Madhuk Mudgal, who sang it, and we recorded it. The rest came from Brazil, jazz, this, that, and the other. And that's what maybe made the performance special. When we did it in Iran, the quotations were translated into Farsi. And we said, who's going to understand the show? You need a background. And they came up and said, no, we have a class in junior school on Mahatma Gandhi. And then this guy comes with a huge fat book in Farsi on Mahatma Gandhi and the quotations. So wherever we went, even if you didn't know about the thing, it connected with what it was trying to say. That was important.
Amazing. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. So can you tell us about this? This is a very interesting collaboration that happened. Go ahead.
Transposition was, I think, again, 2002. It is based on transposed heads. Thomas Mann's story, Transposed Heads. Actually, the story comes from Vetal Panchvinasati, or the Bikram Vetal cycle of stories. And Schiller took it to Thomas Mann and he completed the story. It's about Girish Karnad made the film Chellavi. Also, many people, Hayavardhan has used, Chellavi was flowering tree, sorry, Hayavardhan has used the transposed heads, where the two people, one is the brain, one is the brawn, and they're both friends and they fall in love with this girl, and she likes one, the other one, and Kali comes in and the heads are chopped off, the wrong head goes onto the wrong body, who it is. Now, our version, again, music here was composed by a very talented young music person. She was an architect now in Mumbai, Savan Datta. And the base for us was a Jungian psychologist, Rashna Gandhi, Rashna M. Hasli. And she helped us working, and the archetypes were these puppets fixed to the body, and the inner voice were dancers. So it was this mix of things. This was, of course, a production more for teenagers and adults, transposed head and to music. Yeah.
Amazing. Can we go to the next image, please? Yeah. Tell us about this one.
Journeys was 2001. Again, Savan had composed the music, and it came from a poem, Thanks to Life. Violeta Parra, a Chilean poet who passed away in music. And there's a very famous song called Thanks to Life. And if you read the words of Thanks to Life, Gracias a la vida, many people have sung it. And it was the life of this protagonist, this little puppet which goes through life, and there is violence, there is love, there is education, and then the beyond. So again, you see large puppets, objects. We play with scale in Ishara. We don't use just small one puppet, masks, you know, a lot of textile, cloth, music, movement is involved. Yeah.
Amazing. And I must say to everyone watching that he does go all out, and most of his productions on the small stage are so grand. They've got so many amazing sets. And within a span of like 30 seconds to a minute, he's able to change the set. I've seen so many of his productions where he changes the set like that. So how do you do that? Is there an art to changing the set like that so quickly in a small stage?
We struggle with it. Right now, we are doing a production and we keep saying we have to control ourselves. We've done a performance on a Swedish children's book. It's on the environment, and there's just 3 people on stage and very small. We can collapse it and take it to schools, because a larger production you make, which is very beautiful, but then you cannot always put it up somewhere. You need lights, sound, and things like that. And it's always a trap. Right now, we are working on a roomy performance, and it's going to be music, again, lights and sound and projection. And we're saying that let's do it. But then in the end, how are we going to travel with it? How is it going to happen? Again, nil sponsors. All the people who work together want to do it. That is what is very interesting. There is an energy there that people say, no, don't worry, we will do it. And when the shows happen, we'll see what happens. So it's something that you get used to, I suppose, traveling.
Okay. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay. Let me see if I can share the slide. Give me a sec. Okay. While I get the next slide, I wanted to ask you, that when you make these performances, of course, they're designed to appeal to young children, but you've also brought many serious social issues to the forefront through these pieces. Tell us about that. How that is a really important thing people don't seem to understand. That it's not just all about fun and creativity. It's also about getting a message out there.
There are 2 things in this work. One is eclectic work, which you like to do, performances or stories, and then sometimes a bread and butter work, which is commissioned work. And that comes, as I said, with the Gandhi piece, or when the UNESCO project happened, and it was about HIV awareness and substance abuse, drug abuse. And there 15-20-minute performances which went to NGOs, schools, bastis with counselors. So it depends. And again, the challenge there was not to make a bhashan, not to give a lecture, say do this, do that, but how to make it interesting. And then people come and ask questions, or you give out material. So it depends. Yeah.
Okay, great.
This is one.
Yeah,
please.
Go ahead. Please tell us about this one. This is an amazing show.
Heer Ke Waris was a performance based on the famous love story, Heer Ranja. I mean, all of them are similar. It's a Romeo and Juliet from Punjab, tragic, but it talks about caste, it talks about society, about land, and it's 18th century, this writer, I forgot the famous name, and it was in Punjabi, classical Punjabi, and Mahip Singh took it and made it into a simple Hindi. And again, here, like transposition, the young lovers, the boy and the girl of today, the actors or the narrators come to a dargah to tie the thread. And the darwish there says, what are you doing? There's nothing like true love. You are not Heer, you're not Ranja. Who are Heer and Ranja? And then the puppets take over. And that girl and the boy then hold the puppets and give the voice to the puppet. And it's all on honor killing. It's very famous, the story. And it's another piece, puppets, actors, projection. It went to the World Puppet Festival in 2017. We performed in Hindi and with subtitles in French. Projected. And yeah, there are some pictures here. The archetypes again are puppets, which are these bronze figures. And it's also very interesting. It's critical about religion. Ranja always plays the flute. He's a hippie of 18th century, and his brother and sister-in-law throw him out because father is dead, don't want to give him land. And the first night he rests in the angan or the courtyard of a mosque, and he plays the flute, and all the villagers come to listen. And the Maulvi says, "Haram hai, you can't play music here." And then the dialogue between Ranja and the Maulvi is it's an eye-opener. In fact, we were scared to do it. And Mahip says, "No, I'm not doing any. I'm giving you the actual dialogue which was written in the 18th century." And it again, when Ranja and she's married off to somebody else, and then he joins the Jogis, the sadhus, the Jogis, and the Jogi tells him, "Why have you come here? You're lost of love, or you want to make money?" And all this was written at some point, 18th century text, which was transferred. And what we did was, because we wanted to do this show some years ago, because there was a lot of right around Delhi. You're sitting in a city and you go out and you realize the difference of life. And there were honor killings, there were all sorts of things happening. And so he found a story to fit that. And the present day boy and girl keep coming back to present day. And they start talking about their story, and then the puppets take over, they come back, you know, go back. So that's what visually it was. She embroiders her own pulkari, and it's her own kafan in the end, her own, because her parents poison her, because she falls in love with this guy and they've married her off to somebody else. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, can we go to the next slide? Yeah, this is of course a video of it. I don't think we'll be able to play it. There's a little technical. Let me see. Are we
You
able to
take
play?
time to download the video.
Okay,
that's the problem.
let's go to the next slide. Yeah, okay, tell us about this one. Now, this is, I'm seeing the placard he's holding. It's amazing. Can you share with us what this was all about?
There are two performances. As I said, we worked in very different genres. Simple Dreams on the left is like stick figures, again to music, and we got tired of stories and physical sort of puppets and narratives. So we did this thing where movement and sticks were put together, and it talks about water, land, human beings, migration, then again the beyond, and it was all done with sticks, which were suddenly put together and they form figures. Clown, this was a clown show, and there were small anecdotes with placard, about the three puppeteers. Yeah,
very nice. Can we go to the next slide? Okay,
this was fun.
This
apples
is,
and oranges. Yeah.
Yeah, this is apples and oranges. Let's see if we can play that video. Okay, we can always come back to the video afterwards. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so we can talk about your work. This was another small clip. Okay, tell us about this show.
Another story which is very popular, carrying on and on, Anokhe Vastra. It's with large masks, it's slapstick, it's bright colors. It's based on Hans Christian Andersen's Emperor's New Clothes. And it was done in I think it was made when Rajiv Gandhi was around, and the media was taken over now as well. And the emperor and the festivals of India, and so it adapted it. The two weavers who met up, the child sees the truth in the end, that the emperor is nude, or the emperor's new clothes. Everybody knows the story, and we did it with text, and yeah, it was playback with large masks.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah,
I'm trying to play the video for you guys. Let me see if I can do it from here.
You have to be able to download the videos first. When you click there, it doesn't.
Yeah, we put it in a presentation, so there's a little technical difficulty happening with video.
Maybe later.
Okay, just give me a sec. It's coming. Let me see if I can play it for you. Just give me a sec. Let's see if we can share it with everybody. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yeah. It will stop. It will not go very well. Yeah. He has a flag post right on top of his head, pulls the flag up. When he calls for entertainment, the TV set comes and the puppeteers put two antennas on the emperor's head. So there's a lot of metaphors which are every day today as well.
Okay, great. Were you able to see that video?
Well, yeah. Some of it.
Okay, was there any audio in it, or you couldn't hear the audio?
Yes, there was audio and music.
Okay, great. Can we go to the next slide, please, with the moderator? One sec. Here we go. This was an amazing thing. Can you tell us about this?
Firoza would also know, because this was during the Everlasting Flame, the three huge big exhibitions that happened in Delhi. One came from Mumbai, one came from SOAS in UK, and the other one in Delhi itself. And in one of the programs, the entertainment evenings, I think we did a creation sequence, a Zoroastrian creation sequence, again with puppets, with masks, a short piece with text, which I had worked in that performance. I can't remember, was it 78? Roshan Kalapesi, and she had directed The Splendid One. Gulshawaksha's text of the creation. I'd used parts of it, and this was a piece in the exhibition. It was an unfinished mask on Amesha's painters. But the next picture, if you see,
yeah, can you tell us about this setup?
this is the video. This is the whole creation sequence where Ahriman and attacking the wood and large puppets. The puppets became what do you call it? They were the screen inside the Amesha's painters, the big puppets. There was shadow work going on in their costume, and there was text, there were lights, yeah, and the text was, as I said, parts of it from the Splendid One, which happened in Mumbai. I think it was at Tagore Theatre, 1978. Pilu Pochkhanewala had made the sets in miniature, and the people had enlarged these sets. And it was interesting. Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can share that video. Give me a sec.
If it works.
Yeah, 1 second.
Let's try.
Yeah, here we go. Can we see the video? Are you able to see it?
Yeah, it's loading.
It's loading. Okay, here we go.
Again, there is sound, there's music. Amit Bhausar had done the track. So here again, sometimes people say, why puppetry, puppet theatre? But we use, as I said, puppets, actors. It's a visual piece. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think there was a nice little clip to show about that.
The duality works there. There were two characters. One was dressed in dark clothes, one was in white clothes, and the confrontation.
Okay, great. Let's get back to the next slide now. It's the Haider movie. Now, you worked, of course, with him. He's one of the biggest directors in Bollywood, one of the most loved directors. Please tell everyone who I'm talking about.
Well, it happened. There were two things which happened with that director, Vishal Bharadwaj, and in his trilogy on Shakespeare, I think he did Macbeth, and this was Hamlet. Haider was the name, and it was shot in. It was all based in Kashmir, and the song "Bismil" was in Hamlet, the play within the play within the play, where he tells his mother about how his father has died and the person he's marrying is the one who has killed him, and it was connected to political stuff happening today. And I had introduced, he came and he wanted puppets in it, and Sudesh Adana, 6 foot tall gymnast who studied Chow and dance, now is in Norway. I introduced him because Vishal said, I don't want the typical Bollywood dance thing. And Sudesh comes in with very physical theater and movement. And we had worked on a piece before called Dre. I'll come to that, the picture. And so I introduced Sudesh to Vishal. He liked his work, and this he got the best choreographer's award in that. And this had puppets as well as, yeah, it was shot at this archaeological site, the Marthan Temple, in almost -20 every morning. 6 o'clock, the cars wouldn't start. They had to heat them with blow torches, and by 2, 3, the sun would go down. And you see crowds of people on the walls. They had to be involved eventually, and they couldn't go away. And the villagers said that it's become a big problem because everybody's coming here, our cousins, and we have to feed them during your shoot.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, tell us about this, an opera in Paris that you worked.
And then Vishal was invited to Théâtre du Châtelet to direct a performance. I think Sanjay Leela Bansali did a piece, a very opulent performance. I forget the opera. It was a Baroque opera. But then the director wanted John Adams, who's a very minimalistic performer, composer, and the opera. The Flowering Tree is Ramanujan's adaptation, the story of Karnataka folktale. That's where I said Chellavi is the movie which Girish Karnad had made. And in that, then when he saw puppets, he wanted puppets again as architect. Sudesh came in to choreograph the whole thing. And it was set up, yeah, in Paris at this 2014. was when it was done.
Very nice. Okay. I love the way you put all these elements together. I mean, we've got these huge puppets, we've got these small puppets, and we've got people making the background, the whole thing coming together.
Those brooms were Sudesh's idea. He comes from a little village outside Delhi, and these were like, you get only these big jharus in Jaipur, in Rajasthan. And they had to import some 50, 60, 100 of these pieces from Rajasthan to Paris, including many other things, which all the French customs got into a problem. Why, what, everything. And there were 3 young, excellent opera singers, one Swedish, one Italian, and one Canadian who sang the thing. And it's very, in fact, there was a thought of even getting it to Mumbai at one point of time, but I don't think it happened. The music is very special.
Let's hope we see it in the future. Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, let's go to the next slide. 1 second. Okay, tell us about this.
This is Sudesh standing there in the beard behind Aditi Mangaldas. That's the first thing we did together before Haider and Dre. He lives in Norway, and this is a collaborative cultural piece. Where Sudesh came, Dre in Pashto, it seems, means 3. And these were 3 characters from the Mahabharat. One is Gandhari, which is played by Aditi. And she's the mother of all the, in Mahabharat, all the good guys and the bad ones. And Sudesh is the tormented souls of all who have died. And the puppet represents the person of what he calls the just war. The war could have been stopped, but it is Krishna who then says that, you know, you have to do the right. And so you go in war against your own family or the cousin. And this was put together with very, very violent, very strong sound. I would say the music was soundscapes. Lighting was extremely harsh and hard. And it was a physical dance piece. And it happened in our festival. It went to Spain, to Tolosa, at the theater there. We reworked it. And then it was at the Opera House in Oslo in Norway as well. Dre. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So now this is an important part of your career, you know, Ishara, working with the Salam Balak Trust. And there's so many interesting images over here. Could you tell us a bit
many
about
images here?
Yeah.
There were 3 or 4 short stories, the street theaters. You had to use something which was in the face, big masks, peer pressure, where this boy in schools get, because of his friends, into drug habits. The awareness program was on HIV and the modes of transmission, safe, whatever. And if we went to school at that point and spoke about this, the schools, in the cultural context we live in, it was difficult. Today things have changed. So through puppetry, you could say these things because it's an objective theater form. It's not subjective, flesh and blood actors, flesh and blood audience. So we went through, I mean, when we were in Nagaland, the same performance, Chunauti, the battle between ignorance and awareness, was done in a huge Catholic campus. And the school, the workshop space, and there was the missionary, the nuns. And of course, we had to show it to them because the school, they recreated it there. And you couldn't, I mean, you couldn't show a condom there in that Catholic school, but you could show a 6-foot puppet condom, and that the nun said is no problem. And so puppets can say things which human beings cannot. There's a power there that can happen, you know, the reality and fantasy. And these were people, we did workshops with actually recovering users, HIV positive people. They created their own performances. And these were these really bastis, places, open air shows which were being done. Like we did here, this was transferred into, Nagaland, Dimapur.
Amazing. And of course, we're showing you a couple of pictures of you working with educational programs and workshops over the years. You've done quite a lot of them. No?
These were 2 things just before everything changed in Myanmar. If you go to the previous slide, it was the Save the Children Myanmar, and they called us, 5 team members. They have people, they're volunteers who work in all the small districts of Myanmar and on education, on special needs children, and they wanted to use puppetry. So we did 2 workshops in about 3 years where we went with the same people, first a simple and then another one, working with recycled material, things like that.
Amazing. And this also, I love this huge puppet, 6'5" or 7 foot puppet beside you. Can you see the picture?
Yeah,
You're wearing matching shirts as well in this picture.
these are different workshops. The other one is at the university in Pune when we performed some years ago, and this one was Rishikesh Parwar, who called us some years ago to perform, and then he had a workshop with people. Yeah, so
Very nice.
different
And
types.
this is, of course, one of the most famous puppets that you made for the Commonwealth Games. Giant, massive puppets. No?
These puppets keep coming. The ones on the left are the ones for the Commonwealth Youth Games. I think, when was it? 8 years ago. There was 10 puppets made, and they keep being rehashed. They go for welcomes to events, things like that. And the other side is in Dubai. We've been twice to GEMS Modern Academy, where we put these large productions together, and the finale was with different large puppets. And they wanted to use these just now. They may use them in December at the expo as well, because they were talking of different communities living in the UAE. And we worked with almost 100 kids at GEMS Modern. Twice, Nargesh Kambata, she was the principal. She saw our first performance at Welham Girls School in Dehradun years ago. Her daughter was studying there, and she came back to us and said, can you come and recreate that sort of working? Because we are very good at our school. They were excellent. These kids in Dubai could read something and the next morning they knew it by heart. So she said, that is what it is there. They work very hard, they study, they hog the thing. So I want a creative thing that you can come and give an idea, and then slowly we work with the children a month long. And it was not easy. The first 2 weeks, the children were so used, the teenagers, that you tell us what to do, we'll do it. And we wanted to do it the other way. And then slowly it developed and it happened. And then we went the second time again there. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So now I'd like to ask you, what advice do you have for young people who would like to get into puppetry today? What would you tell them to do? There are many people who might pursue puppetry as a career now, because it's...
As anything like puppetry, as long as they see a future in it, that they can see that they can do something with it, they will do it. That a lot of it is being wanting, the government is pushing it in education just now. In fact, yesterday they're all talking about puppetry in education. For years they've been talking about it. They want to put it into practice. So that is something. There is puppetry for television. Gully Gully Sim Sim was a Sesame Street that came to India, and it finished its season. So a lot of our young puppeteers were working there. And some of them, the main ones, were earning IT salaries with Sesame Street when it was in India. So it depends how it's from nothing to something. You have to make, I wouldn't say just to puppetry, any art form. So maybe you're in the right place at the right time, but that 45 minutes or 50 minutes of production has a lot behind, almost 2-3 months of work as a group, or you can stretch it to even a year. So it depends on the dedication. That's how the Roomish thing is happening today. And everybody's saying, no, we'll do it, we will do it. And we keep meeting every week, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. So it's the energy. You want to do something, you will do it. But and in workshops also, it's very interesting, because when you do puppetry is not just the final thing. It's art, it's plastic art and painting, more clay work, papier-mâché, messy work, acting. And some people fall out. They don't want to cut things and all. And that, I'm lucky that I had that education at NID in the foundation course, where we did work with different material. And I think I'm privileged amongst some of our Indian puppeteers to have had that, because to work with tools to do things. Meshke always had drawing, and he said, you first draw in 2-dimensional, draw your character, and then how are you going to convince somebody what you're going to do? You're not going to be able to make a puppet and show it. So make a plan, make a production thing. That's important. Sometimes we go straight to Z. We don't do the ABCD.
Okay, and I wanted to ask you, I mean, you've made thousands of puppets and productions over the past 5 decades. What's the most unusual request you've had, most unusual puppet you've had to create?
I don't know.
Really, there must have been some puppet.
Each production has something or the other, and then suddenly it pops up again. You rehash things as well. The very idea of Michael Meshke was that in each performance, you start with 0. So you start afresh, which is very difficult, because you always base, or some things that have worked, or you work within the parameters of what you have or what you can do. So it's very easy, someone in Sweden saying that wipe out and work totally afresh with something new. But I don't know, there's nothing strange. There are puppets that move well, or there are puppets that communicate well, and some puppets don't when you're making them. So this is material.
Okay. So let's show them. This, of course, is
I hope some of the
something that all
videos.
of us know. Yeah, we'll show the video, but let's celebrate this. So when you got the Padma Shri, was it a complete surprise?
It was totally a surprise.
Okay.
It happened in 2011. I was in Gurgaon diving with that photographer who was taking that first picture, and someone called and said, are you Dr. Pudumjee? I started laughing and I said, no, I'm Dadi Pudumjee. And the voice sounded like a colleague from NID who was always playing jokes, Ranmal Jhala, and also born in Pune and Jhalawad now. And I said, yes, and I put the phone down and I started laughing. Someone's playing the fool. They said, yes, do you accept the award? And I started laughing and I just said, Ranmal, stop it. Yes. And I put the phone down. I was driving. A little later, we came to some restaurant and we were meeting with other people. And then the phone started ringing and the journalists started asking in Europe. That's when it dawned upon me that this is happening and that it was real. And then I traced the number back, a landline, and I tried to ring that number and hello. And they said Home Ministry. And then I put it down. That's when one realized that this was real. This was not a joke. It is great to be acknowledged, but that's it. After that, yeah, what I mean, you have to still carry on. You know, somebody said you won't get arrested if you got a Padma Shri. That's not true.
Okay, let's talk about UNIMA now before we wrap everything up. I mean, UNIMA has been a very important part of your career and your life as well. And you were the first president, you know, so
not first president
from India.
UNIMA stands for Union Internationale de la Marionette. Today is the oldest international theatre organization in the world. It celebrated its 90th anniversary last year, and it has its headquarters in France in a little town called Charleville-Mézières. And every 4 years there's a congress, and the 18 members of the executive, this is one, previous one, and there's an election and nominations of the president, and normally it was always Europe or that centric. Then it's grown to other countries. And I think it was 2008 when I was elected in Perth, the Congress in Perth. And then there were 3 Congress. You can stay for 3 terms, and one was re-elected. And I finished my term in 2000, this year in April, and now it's become, something else. So these were people from all over the world, the countries, different countries in the executive committee. And UNIMA has national chapters. Almost 90 countries have UNIMA India, UNIMA France, UNIMA Japan, and they do all their work. Right now, they're doing a lot of Resili art, online things, resilience and art, UNESCO's project during the COVID, how people are managing or how performers are managing. A lot of aid came in through these non-governmental organizations, civil society, to different countries where puppeteers, in fact, not just India, many other countries had the same problem in South America, even in Europe, Southeast Asia. So the things that happened through UNIMA, it made the first, it took 30 years, some years ago, to compile and make the first world encyclopedia of puppetry arts. It's online, UNIMA, and it's free now. It's got Spanish, English, French. It's gone online, but it was first printed as a huge fat hard copy, the book. And that's one of the things. So many projects, there are education, communication, research, all sorts of things that happen in UNIMA.
Okay, and UNIMA has a lot of chapters in India as well, you said. They have a lot of...
There's one, no, each national center has one. They're members in India. So UNIMA India has that many members, a lot of young members. I remember when Mayor Contractors started UNIMA India in the 80s, there were almost 100, even traditional puppeteers were part of it. But it's all voluntary work, and you have to work for UNIMA. It's not that something people think that because of UNIMA, you will travel, you'll get this and there. But it goes on. Some countries do excellent work, some are lagging behind. Yeah.
Okay, great. And before we go, I want to show everyone your last work. This was a very interesting show that you've done. And where has my Nani gone? We can see from the images so much work went into it. Then, of course, yeah. Go ahead. You want to say something about this?
This was a book, children's book, Tulika Publications, Where Is My Grandmother Gone? It's about the death. The girl comes home and the mother was looking for the grandmother. The mother tells her she's gone to a better place, like we always do, try to hide. And then the girl keeps questioning, why are you packing her things? Where is she gone? Is it a better place than our home? And what's her name? She had written the book and we adapted that book in Hindi with tabletop puppets, shadow. And after that, the last performance was When Land Becomes Water. That was
Here we go. We got it on the screen. Yeah. Tell us a bit about that. It was done by the NCPA.
This also connects. Everything somehow connects. Years ago, we performed at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. There's a huge India festival. And Zaksis Unwala, who was an internee there from the NCPA in the music section, and he said, oh, we saw this Gandhi show, we should do so. Many years passed, 10, 11 years. And then suddenly a call came one day that, can we do something? I said, okay, what? And then Neeta Premchand, who may be online today, has the Bombay Papery, and she had written 3 excellent books on the Great Flood for children, illustrated with crushed handmade paper and block printed, paper. And she came, I think, to NCPA, and then NCPA came to us, and we said, yes, it was a challenge. And we had the most fantastic composer, Airat Ishmaruto, who's a Tatar, he lives in Canada, composes a lot these days. And Yevgeny Vushkov at that time, it was his last performance at the NCPA, the symphony orchestra. Everything was done online from Delhi, Mumbai, Canada. And then we arrived in Bombay 2 days before the show, and we listened to the whole orchestra, which sounds very different than what we were listening online. And it happened. And the challenge here was that all the stories until they get into the boat are different. But then afterwards is the flood and redemption. And there were 3 stories: Gilgamesh, Mesopotamia, Manu, India, and Noah's Ark put together.
Okay, let's show them a bit of the clips. Yeah.
I hope this one works.
Yeah, here we go.
Again, in the style of Ishara, the sound is not there, but still, yeah.
Are you able to hear it now?
No.
Okay.
And then the handmade paper and the block printing, Shahaz Ahmad did the animation, digital animation, which was projected at times.
Okay, I think we have an issue with the video. So
Let's see whatever you can without the sound. This performance is now happened. It happened in Mumbai. It happened at the Ishara Puppet Festival. It happened in Chandigarh. It happened at the IAS Academy in Mussoorie and in Moscow at the State Puppet Theatre. This is, of course, the first puppeting thing.
I thought this is a great way to get the audience going to send in their questions and start talking to us. So it's been really a lovely experience, and you've shared with us so much wisdom and so much wealth. And I must say that anybody who's listening in and wants to do a career in puppetry, there's so much scope today for them as well. I mean, when you were starting out, I'm sure there were many challenges, and today there are many more avenues open up. I mean, you can showcase your puppetry online, you can showcase your puppetry through videos and things like that.
Most of the traditional puppeteers in India during the pandemic have made excellent small videos on their phone about mask and this and washing hands. They made some really creative things. The pandemic has also given the opportunity of online work and has also shown us certain things that we didn't know. Puppetry is being used in all over the world by other theatre forms, dancers, theatre pieces. You've seen War Horse. You're going to see Winnie the Pooh soon on Broadway. So there are different ways how people are using. They're always looking for something more. And that's what puppetry is, how to use it. Remember, in English, the term is puppets. Now, what happens in Hindi is we say Katputli, a kaat ki putli, which is only from Rajasthan. But, what is interesting that in all our Indian languages, various languages, each state, the puppet is not known as puppet, it's known by the material, tolu bommalattam, as in Andhra Pradesh, tolu leather, bomma as figure, and attam as the play, or tol pavakutu as in Kerala, or yakshagana gombiata, yakshagana puppet theatre. So fortunate, unfortunate, puppets became Katputli, the name in Hindi, because we use it in this area. But otherwise, you cannot call the puppetry from Kerala or Andhra Pradesh a Katputli, or Bengal or something. So each of them have their own, and all over Southeast Asia, the material is made from, sometimes dictates the word, not the technique necessarily.
Amazing. So what shows have you got planned now for the future, as you know, the lockdown is coming down and things like that?
As of now, we are working with Tommy Baker is online asking something. He's been twice to our festival from Ireland. We just worked on a children's book, Lotta from Döjebro. It's about a famous Swedish children's book where this young girl hears, or everybody in the village hears, that God is going to take away the sun. And nobody wants to go up to God because they all are they're scared of God. So this little girl writes a letter to UN and says that, you know, I'm not scared because I haven't done anything wrong, but I will go up and speak to him. So she travels up and in her dream, and the God that she meets in our play is a human being, and he's dusting heaven. He's cleaning heaven. And she says, can I meet God? And he says, yes. Where did you come from? So and so. So he says that, what you're speaking to God. He looks at him and says, you don't look like God. So he says, what does God look like? So she shows all her calendar pictures of different gods. Oh, this. And then she realizes that he is the one. And then why are you taking this? We are so happy everywhere, and you're taking the sun, and we'll all die. So then he says that you're only thinking of let's see your town. And he sees down, and it's really beautiful. Everything is perfect. The periscope hits and goes an inch further, and he sees all this misery and war and violence. And he says, what is this? So the girl says, I've never seen this before. So he says, but that's right next to you. How come you don't know about it? So he says, if you are saying this, there is this as well. So I've decided to take the sun away to a better place. And then she promises that we will try and behave ourselves. And he says, but you will also grow up one day. She says, no, but we will. So in the contract he signs, saying that I'll loan the sun for 20 years. And after 20 years, I'll look down again. And then what did he see? That's a small performance, which is already made, going around. And the other one is the larger Rumi story that we are working on. And I hope that it can be like Water, the show with music. And we are working on a famous Rumi text. In English, it's Who is at My Door? And there are 4 small stories about longing, about baggage in life and losing it, and then dream. And each of them connect between the verses to smaller stories. So we'll be working with a shadow, and there's one actor in front and his own image at the back, the dancer. So we're playing. Let's see how it comes out with text. We will do it in Hindi as well as in English.
Wish you all the best for that. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing performance.
Thank
Please keep us posted. We all want to come and see it.
Thank you.
All of us. Okay.